You might think the Albanese government has already done its worst in destroying business, destroying our wealth. But you'd be wrong. The worst may yet be to come. A disaster for our future. 1,000 pages of new green laws and explanations called nature positive. And that means 3 ministers now, all of them wanting to replace Anthony Albanese as Prime Minister, are all going flat out to smash business. Now, 2 you've already heard from. One is Climate Change and Energy Minister Chris Bowen, of course, whose net zero crusade on global warming is destroying our electricity system. Bowen's plan to save us from the non-existent climate crisis is to get rid of our coal-fired generators and replace them with wind and solar. But there's a big problem. It's true, destroying coal-fired power is easy. That's going out of business. But not one single new wind farm went ahead last year to replace them. In fact, private investment in Bowen's clean energy revolution has cratered from $6.5 billion in 2022 to just $1.5 billion last year. So Bowen is destroying coal-fired power generators, but not building anything like enough to replace them. What we're seeing is the de-electrification and de-industrialisation of Australia by a government that's making electricity such a scarce luxury that whole industries could be wiped out. Now, the second minister smashing business is Workplace Relations Minister Tony Burke, who's rammed through one pro-union law after another, crippling the ability of businesses to manage, to use private contractors, for instance, loading them with extra costs and regulations. And all this is when our productivity growth is now terrible, absolutely terrible. And when Australians last year got 1% poorer per capita on average. We needed all that like a hole in the head. But now, the third minister who's about to make new investment in Australia, especially in our resources and new gas and coal mines, even harder. In nuclear power too, or anything on Aboriginal land. Is Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek. She's pushing now an international agenda called Nature Positive.
Our government is getting on with our goal of delivering a nature-positive Australia.
Plibersek's claim is that despite all the green tape we have already, all the environmental laws we have already, all those green restrictions that are strangling investment in coal and in gas and in fracking and in oil and so much more, still aren't enough.
Australia's environmental decline is a direct product of Australia's poor environmental laws.
Now, Plibersek's solution, she has said, is about 1,000 pages of new laws and explanations, whatever, 1,000 pages. But relax, let me sum them up. This is a plan for even more green restrictions and Aboriginal cultural protection rules that will make it even harder to open any new factory and especially any new mine. Plibersek claims all this is actually going to be good for business by speeding up decisions, making things clearer. But everything she's actually hinted at, every specific, during a highly secretive consultation process, sounds more like a threat, and a big one. For instance, Plibersek in her department's official map of what it intends says we have to get tough on global warming policies and force investors to first work out all the emissions their business is going to create and cause and disclose how their project aligns with Australia's national and international obligations to reduce emissions. Now can you imagine the horrendous paperwork, the costs, etc., the hoops? But this nature-positive agenda, this bundle of laws, proposed new laws, goes much further. Plibersek also wants improved protections over fracking for the gas that we actually badly need now, even though multiple state inquiries have said the risk of any contamination of groundwater, for instance, which is the main concern, is low and it's manageable. Naturally, she's also pushing the government's anti-nuclear hysteria, which includes an irrational ban on nuclear power. Plibersek, though, through a department, wants her nature-positive laws to also have an extra focus on protecting the community and the environment for the harmful effects of radiation and radioactive material. where on earth is that danger right now that we're not protected from already? Who's walking around, you know, nuclear reactive right now? Tick, 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 tick. I mean, seriously. And finally, and ominously, Plibersek wants more race politics. New laws, the department says, to strengthen First Nations cultural heritage protections nationally. And you've got to ask again, is Tanya Plibersek blind? Hasn't she seen how activists have grossly misused our existing laws, citing mythical rainbow serpents, for instance, to block even massive gas projects way out at sea, claiming that Aboriginal songlines will be disrupted, and how the animals are complaining about this?
What is going on here? What is happening? We've got animals, plants that are telling us there's a major issue going.
Or how about the debacle over Western Australia's cultural heritage laws? So restrictive, so abused, they had to be scrapped within months. Does Plibersek really think we need even stronger ones nationally now? Yet Plibersek and her department, they're doubling down. They're suggesting that under their nature-positive laws, species that are of cultural significance to First Nations people be considered in environmental and heritage protection processes. And she's also demanding that the unelected members of her hand-picked Indigenous Advisory Committee be given a stronger voice in our system of environmental protection, even though many of these unelected people also, by the way, have substantial European ancestry, but they identify as Aboriginal. So add it all up. The government's global warming crusade, its green religion, its race politics, plus the wildly pro-union laws on business, the damage being done to our economy could last a generation. Labor's ideological crusades, they're going to come at a terrible cost.